Good. So we've done 5.2.1 to prepare the retained income note. We now need to calculate the income tax paid and the dividends paid. When we do the income tax paid, it is important that we know the layout of the SARS income tax account. Because if we know that, it should be much easier to calculate. It will always start off with a balance, which can either be a debit or credit. It will then have on the debit side, whatever I paid the bank, and on the credit side, it's going to have the actual tax, and then it will end on a balance. So as long as I know the layout, I can go and look for the figures. So I'm first of all looking for balances. It can be either the balance at the beginning and the end, or whatever is given to me. Now, SARS income tax can either be a receivable or a payable. So I must look under both these notes if they give me the notes. So for last year, there you can see it was under receivables. Receivable means it's an asset, it had a debit balance. So it started this year with a debit balance. So it had a debit balance of 11,000. Let's just see what 11,300. And while I'm at the balances, I can put the balance at the end in as well, because I'll need that as well. And now it ended up on a payable, in other words, a liability, which is a credit balance of 21,800. For it to end on the credit side below the lines, it will be above the line on the debit side, so the balance carried down will be above the line, and that was 21,800, which means the below the line figure must be in credit because it's a liability, it's a payable. So the drawdown must be on the side where it should be, 21,800. Now on the debit side, I'm now looking for tax, and then the only missing item will be a total of everything that I paid. So let's go and see if I know that we have the tax because we used it just now. So let's go and see what it was. The tax, 293,100. So the income tax was 293,100. So now I only need the bank. That's the only missing figure. Because I've got the credit side complete, I can put that in as the total for the credit side, 293,100. Copy that amount to the debit side between the lines. I haven't got lines here. 293,100, which means my bank is then the difference between 293,100 and those two amounts. So I take 293,100 minus 21,800 minus 11,300, and that will give me 260,000, which is the amount that we paid on tax. So I must just go and show I took 293,100 minus 21,800 minus 11,300. So let's get to the answer sheet. So how did I get to my answer? Okay, just good. So I took the 293,100 and I minus 21,800 and I minus 11,300, and that gave me the balance at the end, or the payment, 260,000. So that is how I would do the calculation of the income tax. Dividends, a bit easier. We simply have to take last year's final, because that's going to be paid this year, And if I go, where will I find last year's final? It will be the shareholders for dividends balance. So I must just go and look for the shareholders for dividends for last year. It was 360,000. That was outstanding last year, and this year it will be paid. So it's one of the payments we're going to make, 360,000. And to that, I must add this year's interim. And this year's interim was, I calculated it when I did the retained income note, it was that 250,000. So I must add the 250,000 to the 360,000. So if I add those two amounts, that will give me the total payment for dividends, and that is 610,000. So dividends, fairly easy. You just look for last year's shareholders for dividend balance. That would be last year's final dividend, which is now paid, and we must look for this year's interim. If you did the retained income note, you would have done it already. Good, so that was 5.2.2, those two calculations. Now we need to do 5.2.3, which is to complete the following sections, the cash effect of investing activities. It's one of the sections, the investing activities, that has to do with new assets that we bought, as well as assets that we sold, and that will, let's just, so on the answer sheet, I'm immediately going to put in what I know should be in the note, and that would first of all be fixed assets that we purchase. So it's fixed assets purchased. Make sure you know the layout of the notes or what the content of the notes are. Then if you start answering, you immediately put in the blank spaces. You put in the things that you know should be there. Then it makes it a bit easier to actually look for the figures. So the second thing would be fixed assets sold. And the last thing would be any changes to my fixed deposit. Those are the only things that will go into this note. So I've got 3 lines, so it's most probably there will be some of each of them. So let's go and look for anything to do with the fixed assets first of all. If I look at fixed assets, they give me the carrying value at the beginning and end. Now, to do the fixed asset calculation, you should know the fixed asset note that we do in the balance sheet. Now, the fixed asset note basically looks like that. It's got a carrying value at the beginning. To that, we add whatever movements we had for the year, add or deduct, depending on what it is, and that will give me a carrying at the end. So those are the figures I'm looking for. The one that I'm interested to calculate is the fixed assets, the additions at cost, because that is what I'm doing now. So if I've got all the other figures, I can work back to get to the addition. So let's see what we've got. On the balance sheet, the fixed asset totals for last year and for this year would be the carrying value. For last year's end would be this year's beginning, and this year's end would go into the final balance. So if I look there, last year's fixed assets, 8430,720, would be my carrying value at the beginning of the year. Let's just put it in. 8430,720, and I've also got this year's balance, which was 8,775,720. That would be the balance at the end. 8,775,720. Now I must go and look for anything about disposals. So if I go to the information, there should be something to tell me if anything was sold during the year. Let's just see. Okay, there I've got something. Old equipment was sold at carrying value for 111,800. Carrying value is 111,800, but they're telling me the carrying value was that amount, and that was also the selling amount, which means in this specific one there wouldn't be a profit or a loss. We sold it for what it was worth. But for the note, I'm looking for the carrying value, and that is the 111,800. Just be careful, if I sell assets, it will make the assets less, so I must put it in brackets. The same with depreciation. If I write off depreciation, it will make the amount less. So if I can find the depreciation, I've got enough to work back to the addition. So let's see if there's anything to do with depreciation. And there they give me from the extract from the income statement 123,600. Put that in as well. As I said, it's also making the amount less, so I must put it in brackets. 123,600. Good, now I must just work back. I know the workings of the note. The balance at the beginning plus or minus the total movements gives me the balance at the end. So if I take the balance at the end and the balance at the beginning, so what that one I haven't got because I'm missing one. So I've got the answer plus or minus something, and that will give me the beginning. So to work back, take the answer and do the opposite. So 8,775,720 minus 843,720 gives me 345,000. Good. So now that I know what the total movements is, the total should be the total of everything inside the block. So it means that that figure plus that figure plus whatever that missing figure is should give me 345. Again, I need to work back to get to the missing one. So I'll start by putting in the 345 plus then 111,800 plus 123,600, and that gives me 580,400. So my additions is 580,400. So I can put that in. I must just also show my calculations. What did I do? I took 8,775,720 minus 8,430,720. That gave me 345. To that I added the 111,800 and the 123,600. So just go and look at how you did your calculation, and that gave me the 580,400. And that is the fixed assets. So we'll carry on in the next part with the assets.